Hello and welcome to the Cash News Podcast, your go-to source for informative conversations about all things cash and currency. From cash security and payments technology to the cash supply chain, we're here to share insights on the issues shaping the world of cash today. Join your hosts, Tom Meehan, Sean Ferrari, and Brad Moody as they dive into the latest trends, strategies, and technology. This is the Cash News Podcast. Now, here's Tom, Sean, and Brad.
Hey, thank you. This is Brad Moody from the Cash News Podcast, just coming to you. I thought today would be a very special edition. I've invited one of the most important people in the world, the person that has really motivated me to be a much better person in life, my daughter, Lila Moody. Hi, Lila. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, even better. If you'd like to introduce your friend Harrison, probably one of the coolest people I know.
Well, this is Harrison, my boyfriend.
Hi.
Hey, Harrison. So, Lila, real quick, just kind of give us, tell us who you are, what you do, what do you do to keep it fresh, keep it cool?
Well, I'm a student at App State. I'm studying communication science and disorders, so speech pathology. I currently am living in Boone, working all summer, 2 different jobs, but they're both fun. What else do I do? I mean, nothing really.
And how old are you?
I'm 20 now.
There you go. I could answer that actually.
Yeah.
That's great, and very proud of you. Obviously, very proud. So Harrison, same deal. Oh, and where are you from?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm born in Charlotte, lived in New Orleans for the past 8-something years.
Perfect. Good deal. All right. Harrison, same question. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 22. I'm also a student at App State, and I study kinesiology and with a goal in physical therapy. I play rugby. I'm a club representative for the team, so I handle our relationship with the school and the rec sports part of the school. And I'm from Massachusetts originally, but my family's kind of all over the place.
Hey, that fair enough, fair enough. Well, I would just tell you, these things are not typically scripted, and just let the audience know that listens. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Boone, it's a really great town. I would highly encourage it. It's a great weekend getaway for those in the southeast and North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia area. Beautiful campus. Some of the warmest people in the world. And after the hurricane floods that wiped out the town and a lot of the college, they could actually probably, use a lot of support. So please, if you guys want a great weekend getaway, Boone, North Carolina, one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Just to kind of throw a free advertisement in there for Boone, North Carolina. So, let's got a question. Just tell me something amazing about your father.
He's a funny man.
There you go. That's what I'm typically known for. And just so we're all on the same page as well, I have made and kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to invite Harrison and Lila on is, the Fed runs a diary, and they kind of capture the audience, the 19 to 25 age. And one of the surprising things that I often hear is that the years of 19 to, you would expect that the youngins, right, that they don't spend currency, cash a lot very often. But, the diary says the exact opposite. So it's interesting to hear their viewpoint about a couple college students that are working their way through school, that have extracurricular activities and lots of funds, to figure out how that they use cash or how they use for payments or what their preferred payment method is. So I thought no better audience than to have my favorite people on the podcast. And just real quick, I have to admit, I taught my daughters the important things in life. Like Lila, who was the drummer for Alanis Morissette in the mid-90s?
Taylor Hawkins.
Taylor Hawkins. So we all know that, obviously. R.I.P. Taylor, miss you already. So I taught her the important things. She has had the privilege of seeing Foo Fighters, so that's very important. And who is the greatest band in the land?
For you, it would be Kiss.
That's right. That's the right answer. And she's also been privileged and honored to see Kiss live. With Def Leppard opening. So again, I taught her the important things in life. But the one thing that I failed as a father, among many things, but how does what money means, right? And how to spend money. Well, we practice a budget, we practice an allowance. Lila was growing up was the kid that didn't ever want to spend money. She wanted to tell everybody, "Hey, I could, but I don't want to because she saves that money, right?" And I think that's she's always been super competitive and she's always wanted to be number one. And I don't know if that behavior's changed, because she's an adult. So I would love to see, Lila just kind of going, talking about it. Like, how much, both question to both of you guys. How much money do you have in your wallets right now? Physical currency.
None. Maybe a few coins.
$65 and some change.
So I think the average person carries, I think it's $76 is what the average person carries in their wallet. I think that haven't seen the final results from the last Fed diary, but I think it was around $76, which to me I think is high. I probably have $30 in my wallet. I actually did a personal study of how long I could go without having to get cash. And I went a good 3 months without having to get cash. And I was surprised at how really interesting it was, but how it was kind of disruptive to me because I was always worried about other stuff. Like what happened if I lost my phone, right? Then I don't know what to do. Then I'm just screwed. So we'll talk about that in later. But so what would you guys do? Like, how do you deposit a check? Like I assume that you guys do your summer jobs, they pay you cash or you get a check, or how's that work?
Well, I get checks for both jobs, and I
Okay.
just use my mobile app and do the picture thing where you
Yeah,
can just line it up and it goes, at least takes a day maybe for it to deposit, but I
okay.
found that's the easiest way.
Perfect. Harrison.
My main job, like that the IRS knows I have, is a direct deposit. It goes directly into my bank account. But if I was to get a check on the side, I would go to the bank and do it. I don't do the mobile bank stuff.
So I got to ask, and there's no wrong answer, but why don't you do the mobile banking app?
I did it one time when I was in high school, and the check didn't work because I did it incorrectly. I don't think I checked the right thing on the back of the check, and since then it was I'm just going to go to the bank and do it there.
That's fair. That's fair. So it's I'm surprised that you're 22 and not 72 with that behavior, but that's fine. Um, it's interesting. It's easier. We saw, back in the when banks started gobbling up other banks after 2008 collapse, we saw a lot of banking maturation of they're just really just kind of conglomerates of banks and banks built next door to banks. And then with the advent of the ATM, obviously, the deposit image feature with an ATM. Oh, I'll tell you a really funny story in a second about the ATM. But the deposit feature in ATM made it so simple, right? To go to the ATM, throw it in there, it images, takes a picture, boom, it's done. And then, of course, the advent of the phone, I literally just tore a check up that I deposited, just because I don't need it anymore. It's already deposited, it's credited my account. So a really funny story is back in my previous life, I used to have access to all the cameras for this one financial institution. So every time I'd go to an ATM, Lila would climb out of the window and make like funny faces. I wish I still had the pictures of the ATMs. And when we get home, she would say, "Hey, Dad, at 11:14, we went to the ATM. Pull up I want to see the video." So you pull up the video, and she'd be doing some kind of silly dance. But it's again the side story of how cool my kid is. So that's interesting that how you deposit those checks. Do you let's say that do your friends do the same thing, or do you do a different method of payment, or how does that typically work with your friends? They do the same kind of. You're all over the place, so
I think a lot of people get direct deposits now, which
sure.
is like pretty easy for the most part. But I don't think a lot of people go to the bank physically unless they need to go to the bank to do something or to talk to somebody. Um, but I think I'm definitely a minority in that situation.
What would you do if you went in a location and your local bank wasn't there?
I'd probably just use my phone. I'd try
Yeah,
it, but I don't know. I
yeah, give
guess
it a
I'd
shot.
have to.
That's fine. It's always one of those like, what do you do if, right? Living in a small town of Boone. I live in a very, very small town, and there's there was two banking centers downtown, one left, and now there's just one. So it'd be hard to find my bank because my closest bank is 35 miles away. So um, let me ask you a question. Like when you guys go out individually, together, doesn't matter. If with friends, I don't care. Doesn't matter. How do you like who pays it? How do you pay the tab? Do you guys one person has a credit card? Like what's the typical usage of payments? You know, now we're looking at how do things get paid when you've gone out?
For my friends at home, if we were to go to dinner or such, something like that, we would first probably ask if we could split it, the waiter, but if not, normally one person would just take it and we would just Venmo.
Okay. So you utilize Venmo
Oh yeah,
or Zelle or Venmo. Okay.
yeah.
How do you feel about the the lack of anonymity with Venmo, meaning your friends can see how much you gave compared to somebody else gave?
I mean, you can put it on private, so
Hmm,
not necessarily they could see it. I
sure.
mean, my account's on private, so
Okay. Good. How about you, Harrison?
Like if I was to go to dinner and I needed to split it, Venmo's fine. But say, for example, on Friday night, me and my buddies went to shoot pool at the bar. But I usually bring cash to that situation because that's something I don't want to use my savings on or my checking account because the
Yeah.
cash I have is kind of what I use for that free spending money because that's just fun time for me. So I would go and bring 20 or 30 bucks and use that, and then I have cash to play pool. But I've never, I don't think I've ever been to a bar and then paid for someone else's drinks and then had them Venmo me. I think that's like kind of stupid.
I get it. It's it's very different. It's almost uncomfortable, right? It's I think why Uber's been so successful is frictionless, right? It's you don't have to touch, you don't have to talk, you don't have to do anything. And now you're like, hey man, you owe me blah, right? I paid for your this, and it's different from your roommate in college when I was in school that hey, the stamp was 11 cents and divide that by four, right? It's not that level, but it is that when you go out sometimes, and I appreciate the paying for your stuff with cash, and I appreciate you carrying cash, that's for sure. So when I kind of Harrison hearing you talk about it, then you kind of use cash as a budgetary method, right? You're kind of using that as, hey, I've got $34 to spend this week, or until I get paid, or some other reference, and you just kind of pay for it that way. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, I think the last time I got like a physical check and I went to the bank, I think it was for a couple $100. I think I got $100 cash and then put the rest in my account. And then I just used that $100 for say like fun things like going out to dinner or something like that. Um, but I would say like groceries and like everyday expenses, kind of like that. I would use my debit card or my credit card, depending where I'm at. But I use my credit card more for gas, I
Sure.
feel.
So let me ask the question, and this goes to both of you. So, Lila, how would you say Venmo, but how would you, if you were out by yourself, how would you, let's say you go to, I don't know, pick any restaurant. I don't want to say a restaurant chain, but pick any
Well,
restaurant. And how would you pay for it yourself if you were there alone?
normally my debit card,
Okay.
but if I'm doing like groceries or shopping or anything like that, I do Apple Pay
Okay.
because I tend to lose my card.
Yeah. 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 I found that out. That's interesting. Um, and I mean, it's fair. It's just, it's scary when you lose your card and
Yeah, no,
the
you close or I close it once it gets
Yeah,
lost.
I always think it's funny how you go to a gas pump and it's like everybody knows what's the one question they're going to ask you. What's your zip code? So the chances you just pick the zip code once you find the debit card, pretty good chance it's going to be that code, especially in a small town.
Yeah.
So so do you check your balance before you use your debit card, or you just kind of keep a mental note about how much money you have in your accounts, or
When I didn't have a job, I would check before, honestly, I would check the week of what my balance was so I could hold myself accountable to not spend money or save money, or if I had a little extra, I'd be like, oh, like I can go to dinner or get some nice dinner, whatever.
huh,
But now that I have a job, I pretty much know that if I'm doing my regular grocery shopping, it's going to be like 30 bucks. So I'm set I keep a certain amount in my checking and a certain amount in my savings, and normally I'm good.
Do you have a discipline where you put like half in this and half in that, or do you just kind of
Yeah,
whatever? Yeah, good.
each check I tend to put like 100 in my checking and then put the rest in my savings.
It's good. So you're using it as a method of payment, but also a method of saving. So that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. How about you, Harrison? How do you manage that?
I have a couple different accounts, so I'm often on the apps moving money around. And one of them has a savings and a checking, and then one of them has a savings and a checking, but
Sure.
only one of them is my real savings account. The other one is just where the money goes immediately. So I tend to just move money in and out of that savings. And then the one through the other bank is my legitimate savings account.
Okay.
Try and keep money in there if I can.
Yeah, that's great. I will tell you that I've played the game with banks just to open up checking accounts to get the free money and then close the accounts right after. So I'm just saying it's an easy way to pick up a couple extra bucks. You just have to set up your direct deposit. But anyway, different topic. So how about this? How you guys ever run into a cryptocurrency kind of thing? Do either of you guys own crypto?
No.
Okay. So which is
So
interesting.
I have stocks, but I have not gone into the world of crypto yet because like Lila refers to cash sometimes as fake money. And I think crypto is actually fake money. That has nothing that at least I can like grasp that it
Right.
exists.
It's not an asset-based resource, right? So
Exactly.
I tell you what, if you guys want to open up our own coin, we can just, have an expensive dinner and have people come in and tell them, hey, by the way, you now own 1,000 coins. And really, so what is that basis off of? It's always been mystifying. And I've had plenty of clients in the past. I mean, as far as going to Israel, right, of dealing with some crypto companies and exchanges, the value of it is what what the market will bear. So it's really different. Of course, there's a lot of currencies that are out there like stable coin, and a lot of countries that are UN that are using a currency as well. So it's is it the way of the future? I don't know. We always say that cash is going to be here for a very, very long time. Lyle, you mentioned that you use Apple Pay. Harrison, do you also use Apple Pay from time to time, or
I do not have Apple Pay set up.
okay?
I do
And is
not
that
use
just a
it.
choice? Yeah,
Yes.
and I can't blame you because I use it from time to time, just because it's easy to fund because it's a link to a bunch of stuff. Um, but I also find it difficult to manage how much is in my account, and I feel like I'm always reloading it, and I always wonder like, wow, if I put $50 in it, I'm obviously pulling it from a different account, so why not just use that other account? That's kind of what my brain is like. What it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to keep moving things around,
Well,
but it does.
mine's attached to my card, to my
Oh,
savings or my checking account. So
yeah,
it's just like my debit card, but on Apple Pay.
yeah. I put money in the wallet. Don't know why.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Don't know why. I don't know. It's just I guess because I'm afraid that I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any answer. I
I've
should
gotten
know.
like a gift for the Apple Cash or whatever it's
Right.
called.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've gotten sent that for, I think it was my birthday. Um, but that's the only way I've used that. And I still have like $2 on it loaded, but I'm not gonna re-up it because why do that when it's already connected to my debit card?
Your debit card, right?
Yeah.
And I guess really when you think about it, is that Lila why you kind of use the word fake? That currency is fake?
Oh, Apple Cash is so fake. If I get it, like I mean, it wasn't my money to start with, so I don't know. Cash is just, if it's not in my bank, it's not real, is how I think of it. I don't know why, but
Well, because your brain probably processes it that it's already spent, right?
yeah.
And that it's already there. It's like gambling when you look at it
Hmm.
from this. You go to a casino with the best intent to make money, but you also go there and they're like, hey, I've already technically lost this money, right? Because last time you walked into a casino, guess what? They're pretty nice inside. It's and they don't do it for philanthropy, that's for sure. So I guess the question I have is, do you get another question about, credit cards, how often do you think, do you have like a price limit where you like use credit cards compared to a debit card or use cash? Like Harris, I think you mentioned, gas in your car. So are you looking at like that
Yeah,
$50 over purchase or?
not really. Now that I have a consistent job, I definitely would use my like credit card more because I could pay it off. It wouldn't just sit there. But I think my credit line max I think is $1,000, but I've never gotten close to that ever. But I'd say tank of gas is right around 40, $50 somewhere in there, probably $40.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would ever use it as like some people spend willy-nilly on their credit cards and hope to pay it back. I would never like use it to the point where I didn't know I could pay it immediately.
Right. Which is dangerous, right? Especially, I mean, I remember,
Yeah.
in college, you go up and you go, to the gymnasium where everybody's kind of assembling to do their orientation, and there's Visa, MasterCard giving away free student, credit cards, and you get a cosign or you get it on your own with a $500 limit. It seems very safe and very secure until you get three or four of them, right? And then all of a sudden you're in trouble. And so let me ask you the next question. If you had a credit card that you use for those type of payments, this kind of goes to both of you, would you do it? Would you designate a certain card because of you want the points? Like you want more, is there a points option that gives you the favorability, or how would you influence what you use to spend?
So that's a big reason why I use it for cash or for gas is because I get cash back for gas purchases on my credit card.
That's
So
great.
that's pretty much what I do with that.
Yeah, banks sometimes make it a little hard to translate that, right? To actually use it, but getting it, some of them
Yeah.
are very simple, very automatic, right?
Yeah, I think it goes right back in like on my app, and then I
Yep.
usually would use it to just pay it off, just the
Yeah,
little percentage I get back.
that's great. Hey, 1 or 2% on zero is zero, but 1 or 2% on a value is the value, right? How about you, Lila?
Personally, I don't have a credit card.
Yeah.
I was asked last year, or maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't know, but if I wanted to get one because I was setting up something at my bank, and I just didn't trust myself enough for that, especially going into college. I mean, I'm good with money, but I'm also like a girl that is just not very smart with her money.
That's right.
So I didn't want to put myself in that situation, especially coming into school without a job, and not having a way to get money to be able to pay it off. So I haven't yet gotten one. Should probably, but
Well, no, we'll talk about that. We can help you out with that. But the other side of it is you're 100% right. Is people get in a lot of trouble. How frustrating is for you both of you guys kind of working your way through school, figuring things out? Do you have friends that have credit cards that their parents just pay it and they just go out and they just spend like crazy and they don't think twice about it? Do you think that's a good life lesson, or what do you think?
no. No, the people that have their parents' card in their wallet or phone or something, I just think they might need a little life check because it's not always going to be there. So I'm very
Sure.
grateful that y'all didn't do that for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of my roommates' parents pay their rent, so mine do not. So that's a big expenditure in my life. And I don't have any of my parents' cards, so
Well,
yeah.
and little things like it, Lila, your apartment in Boone is more than my mortgage in the town I live in, and you have four roommates, and it's
Yeah.
still more than my mortgage, and for your room and bathroom. And so, yeah, I can only imagine that rent is it's a big expense. It's too bad you
Living in
can't use a
living in
credit
Boone's
card.
really hard.
Yeah.
It's just very expensive. And I feel like that's every college campus is gonna be more expensive.
It's definitely changed because when I was in school, I wish I could show you the audience the picture, but um, it was $187.50 that my rent was, and I remember not having money for rent, right? And I had to figure it out, with work and eat rice and peanut butter just because you're a poor college student like you're supposed to be. But sorry, that's how I feel.
I eat a peanut butter sandwich every day.
Me too.
Well, it's a life lesson, right? But it's something to think about. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit because I don't want to take up too much of your time and having a good time. But Lila, you mentioned that you use your debit card and your phone for a lot of your payments choices. You're in Boone, right? Boone is there's not a lot in between Boone and the next civilization. So what happens if, you know, your car breaks down? What happens if you end up needing fuel and there's no internet reception? What happens in that respect when all you have on you is is your phone, right?
Well, now that I have my debit card, I would use that. But I mean, I don't really run into that situation. I've never once ran into that situation before. I mean, my phone, I am clumsy with it and lose it a few too many times, but I've never been in a situation where I can't physically pay for something, um, which is, I'm grateful. I mean, I'm sure many people have, and honestly, I don't know what I would do in that situation because family's not close. I mean, friends are, but something like that.
I would just tell you, like, you remember our good friend Gary Gagnon from Charlotte, right? He always had a hidden $100 bill stuffed somewhere, in his owner's manual someplace, just I, you know,
Knowing
follow
me,
my
I'd put
advice.
it there and then forget.
And then yeah,
So
well,
there's that.
no, something to consider. So,
Right.
how about, I mean, Harrison, you carry 70-ish dollars in your wallet, right? So do you ever worry about, you're not as tied to your phone as most 20-year-old people are. So you feel pretty independent and you have several different payment strategies, it sounds.
I think, yeah, I also do try and keep $100 in my safe, but if I can, if I have the leeway in my like expenditures that I can keep that in there, I try and have a little cash somewhere that I can get if I need it.
That's
But I think if my car were to break down or something, that would be a credit card like expense just for the time if I needed it in like an emergency. I'd probably go to the credit card, but I don't know.
yeah, well, when you have to do, you have to do, right? And that's something to think about. So that's kind of, and kind of looking at, do your friends kind of use the same kind of principle as well, or Lila, let me ask you this question. This is not to sound mean, right? But do your friends generally do the same thing that you do? But in Harrison's friends, the rugby guys do the same thing Harrison does, or have you noticed maybe there's a different type of person that maybe budgets money or uses money as a method of payment differently?
I mean, I feel like my friends kind of do the same. I mean, I don't really ask them about money situations
Sure, of course.
because that's an awkward conversation, but um there's some that I know, like whenever they're in a pickle, they just text their parents and they're like, "Oh, can I have somewhat of money?" and whatever. But so that's what some of them have done. I mean, I feel like a good amount of my friends know what they're doing in life, and so they kind of have it figured out. It's kind of like me, like we'll know
Yeah.
where we're at money wise, and so we make sure we stay in that place. But with the payments like Apple Pay and credit cards and debit cards, I feel like most of them are mostly debit card people. Um, at least I haven't noticed a credit card.
Well, that makes sense with the diary, and I would normally show it, but again, it hadn't been formally produced yet. But the diary clearly says that the debit card usage is really high, right?
Mhm.
When's the last time either of you wrote a check?
Wrote a check? Probably never.
Harrison, have you ever written a check before?
Nope. I
I
I
feel
pay my
like
car payment online, so I
Yeah.
don't need to do that.
I feel like our age we wouldn't have something to write a check for unless it's from something like a car um, or house. But some
Yeah.
people pay their apartments with checks. I know my old roommate used to do that. She, instead of using the convenience fee, instead of paying that for doing it online, she would just give them a check, which
I
is,
went, I went down, I walked down, because I can walk there, so I live downtown. Walked down to the tax revenue place and paid the car taxes this week because I don't want to pay 2% on a credit card, right?
Yep.
Why, if I can do it and get a nice walk out of it, do it, right? So interesting. Okay. Well, what do you guys think the future of cash is? It's always, and that's a crystal ball, right? Of what you think cash is going to be like, what's it going to do? What do you guys think? Harrison, I'm going to start with you first.
I know recently the US dollar has been kind of all over the place, although it's still like the world's currency or whatever. But I don't think it used to be the gold standard, right? And then they went to silver coins, or they had silver coins beforehand, whatever. But I feel like there's nothing backing our cash anymore. It's just kind of like paper.
Sure. Yep.
So I don't know. I really don't know. And a lot of things are trying to be pushed online. So I like physical cash, but I just, my opinion is it at some point might be phased out.
Yeah.
Damn you. That's the wrong answer. No, I'm joking. But we never want, since, it's our livelihood. Obviously, we like the use of cash, but we also think from a contingency standpoint that cash will always have a place. If it's the place, different question. But the mobile payments is definitely creeping up.
What is cash if we don't have something like to back it?
Yeah, so interesting enough is I'll be in Capitol Hill on Thursday afternoon or at a reception for the Payments Coalition to support the use of cash. And there's a bill that's going through right now to where it limits those that the businesses that say, hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to take cash. Well, right on the bill, it says for all debts, all tender, right? So but in order to perform it, all debts, right? So this is to pay my debt. I go buy a soda and it's $3 and here's my $3, right? So, there's a lot of stores that are phasing out cash. And I always want to say, hey, you're not really supposed to do that. But there's a lot of legislation that say that it's a security issue, it's a risk issue, it's dirty, all the kind of stuff during COVID. It was very, very interesting to see. I'll say that, for COVID, we had a lot of work to do because we still had to get our work done. So I saw a lot of different states. I was actually one of the very few people did, travel 41 states where a place where you're not supposed to travel. So everyone was like, no, cash is dirty, cash carries COVID. But no, cash doesn't carry COVID. That was defunct very early, right? Because it was just a bad media presence. But the use of cash is still something that should be able to translate into commerce, right? And that's what it's intended for. So it's created. It's not like in the Civil War times where the South had, hundreds of different types of currency, and you didn't have a way to translate that. This dog pound money meant nothing to U.S. Confederacy or paid, the peso money. There was no translation of this, so it was very different in those environments than it is now. So I think that the use of currency is still very important, and the ability to have currency is something I think is something that we should definitely not take for granted. So Lila, I ask you the same question. This fake stuff that you say is not in your wallet, what do you think the future of cash is for?
I feel like it's always going to be around. I mean, it's been around for how many years, so I think it's going to stay. I mean, some people love it, some people don't indulge, but I mean, can't really just, because what if they do that? Like, what are you supposed to do with all your cash then? Like, what does that turn into? So it's just kind of logistically wouldn't make sense, especially for people like when the cyber thing happened and you couldn't pay with your debit card or your credit card or whatever that whole thing was. Like, I feel like as a insurance standpoint, you can't get rid of it.
It's a great point, because that's when a $300 generator turns into $1,000 cash, right?
Yeah.
The bartering system really kind of gets inflated reactionary. So that's a great point. Very interesting of that viewpoint. I appreciate that. Well, do you guys have anything else to add as we wrap this up and we kind of go forward? I've had you guys on the hook now for a while, so go ahead. Any questions or comments or anything you want to leave the parting?
No, thanks for having us.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, a little view into our world and let you know your opinions do matter, and I really do appreciate that. I'm being very serious. I think that we've got a lot to learn from people that spend cash, and I do appreciate everything that you guys do. And I'm super proud of you, Lila, and of course Harrison as well. But Lila, you're a cool kid. I do appreciate all that you do.
Thanks.
No, thank you. You've taught me a lot. That's for sure. All right, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Cash News Podcast. We hope you found this episode insightful. Don't forget to like and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and be sure to visit us at thecashnews.com to stay up to date with the latest on the world of cash. Thanks again for listening to the Cash News Podcast.